Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Maddy Strohm. I'm a fellow with the Committee of 70, and we're excited to have City Controller Rebecca Rhynhart here with us today to talk with some students from Bodine High School.
Great. I'm glad to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Okay. I'm going to share some slides.
So, I mean, I guess, do you want me to moderate, Maddy, or?
Yeah, that works.
I thought so. City Controller Rebecca Rhynhart's with us. Thank you for being here. I know that, like I said earlier, your position is pretty unique. It's not necessarily within the three branches of government that students traditionally study. And I know local government can be challenging for students to examine, particularly because it doesn't receive as many, national headlines, for example. So
Right.
I'm happy that you're here, and I'm happy that you can speak to some of them about what your office does and under your administration, particularly what you have moved towards.
Great.
So I have some questions listed on each slide. It's kind of like one slide per student. And then I guess if we have some wiggle room at the end, we can just, do some kind of free for all.
Okay, sounds good.
So next slide, please, Maddy. Thanks. Zhiyu, why don't you start us off, bud?
Yes, can you briefly tell us a little of your background, education, and experience?
Sure. So first of all, great to be here today. I am Rebecca Rhynhart. I'm the City Controller of Philadelphia. And just to give a sense of what the City Controller is, the City Controller is the independently elected financial watchdog and audit function over the city. So I don't report to anyone except to the people. I'm elected by the people. Similarly, just how the mayor is elected and the district attorney is elected, the controller is elected separately. So just to give you a sense of what I do. About my background. So I actually did not have a straight path to where I am now. I actually started my career in finance. I grew up in Philadelphia area in the suburbs, but went away for college and grad school and worked for about 7 years on Wall Street. So I worked for a company called Fitch Ratings and then another Wall Street company. And I worked a lot with local governments, but from the Wall Street perspective. And I decided after 7 years that I really wanted to use my financial background to help government work. I definitely am idealistic. I think government can work and it needs good people to lead it. And I wanted to use what I learned to help government work and to make good decisions for taxpayers. So I came back to Philly in 2008 to be Mayor Nutter's, the former Mayor Nutter's city treasurer, which is an appointed position. And then I worked within the government of Philadelphia for about 9 years. So I was the city treasurer, then I was the budget director, and then I spent 1 year in Mayor Kenny's cabinet as the chief administrative officer. So basically, I learned a lot about the city government in 9 years in senior positions working for a mayor. But then I also made the decision that if I was truly going to change government as much as I wanted to change it and disrupt things in a positive way, of course, but disrupt things in a way that I think needed to happen, I decided I need to run for office. So I decided to run for city controller because of my financial background and because the city controller is the financial watchdog. I ran for office in 2017. It was my first time running for office, and I ran against a long-term incumbent, someone who had been in the office for a really long time and was very entrenched and part of the Democratic Party system. And I am a Democrat, but I also was the challenger in this race. So I ran against, his name was Alan Bukovitz. He was the longtime city controller. And my message in 2017 was one of, we need change in our city. We need to make sure that government actually works for all of the people in our city, not just for those that are connected. And I think too often it does work for those that are connected, and that's not right. And that was my message, and I won. So I wasn't anticipated, and most people that say they knew about politics would not, did not think I was going to win. But I did, and I won with 58% of the vote. And I think what that says is that people in Philly do want change. People all over want change, right? I mean, I think people are tired of politicians that say one thing and do another, and you know, you're going to be the different generation, right? So, well, okay, I'm not getting that much of a response, but so I took office in 2018. I am the first woman city controller that the city's ever had, and I've hit the ground running. So that's my background. I'll stop in case you have questions or anything like that.
Thanks for that. I think we can kind of go question by question, and then,
Sure.
you know, and guys, if you want to jump in here, then feel free to interrupt. All right. So I guess we can move on to the next slide then. So Mariah, you want to read this one aloud?
Yeah, so to piggyback off of like your experience, I just wanted to know what inspired you to run for city controller.
Yeah, I really love this city, and I think there's so many amazing things about this city, and just the people and our neighborhoods and everything is awesome. And then the government often doesn't work as well as I think it should. And that's what really made me run for office, which is that from working within the city government for 9 years, I felt that there needed to be significant change in the government. And the best way for me to do that was to run for office. And I really ran for controller because of my financial background. And I thought, oh, that's a job I could do. I have that financial background. I could do that. And so that's why I decided to run. And, you know, in order, there's of course a risk involved in running for office. You just got to jump in and do it. But that's why I ran for controller. And I feel like the role of city controller, being the financial watchdog, that through the work of my office that I can and do call out wasteful spending and show a way forward that benefits more Philadelphians.
Great. Maybe we can move into some questions on the next slide about policies in particular. I know Naveyah came up with a good one a day or two ago. Naveyah, you want to read this one aloud?
Okay, so I was wondering, as the homicides rate among teenagers in Philadelphia rises, do you have any suggestions or ideas on how urban neighborhoods could be fit into the budget and provided more public resources to steer children further away from violence, particularly gun violence?
Great question. The homicide rate is a serious and urgent issue in our city. The homicide rate right now is the highest it's been in over 20 years. Honestly, probably in about 30 years, since the early 1990s. And we need to fix this. It is fixable. In terms of ideas, there are specific programs that have been shown to work in other cities that we haven't implemented in Philadelphia at the level that they've been implemented in other places, such as Chicago, New York, and LA. And my office has done work around this issue. My office is the audit function and the investigations function, but I've also pushed my office, to look more at issues that also have a social impact, and one of them is gun violence. So my office has done work around what works in other cities to get the violence down. There's 3 programs that work that have been shown to work really well in getting the violence down. They're specifically targeted to those individuals most likely to be involved in shootings. So to shoot or be shot, and to offer them a way out. It's basically a life coach model, which combined with therapy and job training is a way out of that life. In addition, I do think that as a government, we need to be strategically focusing on making sure that we get to the crux of the problem behind the violence, which is disadvantage. Disadvantage, as defined by the census, is poverty and other indicators, and we have to make sure that as leaders, that our city is strategically helping communities, historically disadvantaged communities, gain wealth. So I think that I could talk about this for a long time. I think that we as a government do have to do more and do have some ideas around that topic.
I guess I'll pause here. I know, because we had a pretty lengthy unit this year on criminal justice, and
okay.
We focused more specifically on the district attorney and the election that's obviously happening there. But I just want to give any of y'all, and I guess I'm talking to my students here, any of you guys time to ask any other questions as it relates to this, if you have any.
I have one more thing I could add while people are thinking, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So from a financial perspective, there is a very unique opportunity coming up because of the federal stimulus package and the $1.4 billion that the city of Philadelphia is about to get. So this is something that is really unprecedented in the amount of money coming to cities across the country, and what it can be used for is quite flexible. So my office is going to be putting something out in the coming weeks around this money, but we should be looking to programs and issues to solve, such as the homicide rate, with this additional money that's coming in.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
I guess we can continue, and then, if questions come up later on, then we can ask them then.
Okay.
So Jasil, are you there, bud? You want to ask this one aloud? I actually don't know if I saw his name. Oh yeah, there you go.
Okay, so I know you touched on that a little bit in the first question, but my question is, what motivated you to leave Wall Street and get into the government scene, specifically the Philadelphia government?
Yeah, so coming to Philadelphia government made sense to me because I grew up in the Philadelphia area and always really cared about Philly. So to me, that was the government, and really the only government that I wanted to come work for. What motivated me to leave Wall Street, I think I did touch upon it, but I'll expand upon it because I was doing well on Wall Street. I was a managing director. I was promoted there. But for me, and this was my personal decision, I did not feel good about working so hard for the Wall Street side while watching local governments not make the best decisions for themselves. And what I mean by that is that I was working on something called municipal derivatives, and those are financial trades between governments and Wall Street. And often the governments weren't making the best decisions. So they weren't understanding how much profit that Wall Street was taking at their expense, or they weren't understanding the risks associated with what they were doing. And to me, I just didn't feel good about myself working so hard for Wall Street. And I just wanted to work for government to make it actually work, because I feel that government has the ability to truly help people, and with the right strategic help, people can reach their full potential. And so to me, that's the cause that I wanted to be for, which is making government work.
And I think I read somewhere that you left Wall Street right before the subprime mortgage crisis happened.
I did. I'm only laughing because I did not, I mean, the high school, most of your students, I mean, I don't know if you probably learn about this now, right? In school, is that?
Well, I mean, it's not officially part of the curriculum, but I created a unit that they just started. They're reading.
Okay.
We have not yet gotten into, the complexities of how the crisis unfolded. We've only learned briefly about, the difference between commercial and investment banking, but we'll get into that soon.
So yes, I did. I left in February of 2008, and Bear Stearns, the company that I was working for, collapsed in March through the subprime mortgage crisis and the resulting economic collapse. I did not know it was about to collapse it was stressful because there were liquidity issues. And there was liquidity issues all over Wall Street, which created a lot of stress. But I didn't think the company was about to collapse, because it's 100-year-old company. So you don't expect that, but it did.
Yeah, sorry. Please forgive me. That was not that was not what I was implying. I thought it would be nice for them to have something to connect to later down. Learn about it a little bit more.
Absolutely. I mean, it's crazy, and I still talk to a lot of people from there, and they lived through that, so it's pretty insane.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, I think we only have a couple more.
Okay.
Move forward here. Kevin, go for it. You know what? I don't think I see his name. So we also learned about school funding earlier this year. So Kevin came up with the question, what will you do to make sure Pennsylvania schools are fairly funded? And maybe more specifically, I know that your office works with pilots. We've had a brief discussion about those in class. If you could just maybe explain what that is and your involvement with those programs.
Sure. So fair funding of our schools is extremely important, and Philly schools are not funded fairly from the state. I mean, the state funding formula has been found to not be adequate in terms of fairly funding Philly schools compared to other schools across the state and just in general. With that said, my office is the financial auditor of the school district. We are not the performance auditor, and I could explain a little bit the difference there, but financial audit is making sure the numbers tie together. A performance audit is actually looking into the operations and saying, is every dollar spent well? So that falls to the state auditor general. So my office just looks at the financials, to audit the financials, to make sure the numbers tie for the school district. But it is, of course, one of the biggest issues in Philly is our education system. And my daughter is actually in 5th grade in Philly Public School. So it's a big issue. I think that we need to keep working on how we do fund Philly schools and making sure that each school has what it needs to give a good education to the kids. And we're not anywhere near where we need to be, honestly, in my opinion. Pilots, payment in lieu of taxes, is that what you're referring to on pilots?
Yes.
Okay, so payment in lieu of taxes. What that is, so Philadelphia has a big percentage of its tax base are entities that are nonprofits, so don't pay tax to the city, such as the University of Pennsylvania and other universities don't pay tax. In some cities, those types of nonprofits pay what's called a pilot, a payment in lieu of tax. And that is to help the city government. In Boston gets a good amount of payments from its nonprofits and universities, its hospitals and universities. And it's something that people have pushed for here, and I do think it needs to be looked into alongside our whole tax structure, because we need to figure out how to create fair funding in the best way possible. And the question is, should entities like the University of Pennsylvania and other entities like that that have large endowments and that do have a good amount of money, should they be paying tax or something like tax to help the city? Many people would say yes. The universities and others have said, well, we contribute in other ways, we give jobs, etc. But so do companies give jobs. And I do think that it would make sense as part of a larger program and looking at the total overall tax structure to look at that going forward. It needs to be looked at in a fair way and not in a reactive way. In the past, the times it seems like when it's looked at is sort of in a crisis situation to fill a gap. But I think it needs to be looked at just really in a holistic manner to say, what do we need from our nonprofit and university community in order to fund our schools in our city at a level that is adequate, really, to prepare our next generation. I mean, the schools are so important. They prepare the kids, and it's prepare our future leaders. So it is very important.
Thank you.
Sure.
You just go to the next slide, Maddy. Thanks. Isaiah, you want to read this one aloud, bud?
What is a fun fact about you?
Wow, that's a good question. What's a fun fact about me? Let's see. I don't know. What do you want to ask me? I definitely like to read and spend time outdoors with my husband and daughter in my free time when I do have free time. And I don't know, I worked through high school. So my first job was at Martin's Aquarium, which was a pet store. But you probably, none of you know that because it probably closed down before you guys got to the age that you would go to a pet store like that. But I was a fish catcher. That's a good fact, right? I caught fish for people.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, good. I don't normally tell people about that either, so Isaiah, you got it out of me.
My dad used to take me fishing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
He was in the
cool.
Navy, so he likes the water. I don't really like the water though.
Well, that's good that you go fishing with him though. Do you throw them back in, or do you keep them?
I don't remember. I was really young.
Okay.
So,
Thanks for asking that.
of course.
I think we have one more. Althea?
So my question for you is, why is it important for young people to vote?
Oh, it's so important. And I know people especially young people sometimes feel like, well, what is it? How does it really impact me? But it's so important, because if you don't vote, then you're not giving your say. Your voice is not being heard. And to me, even if there's not the perfect candidate, you should be voting between the candidates that are running for that office. Because if you don't vote, then you lose your voice. And if you lose your voice, then sometimes, and I don't think this is right, but some electeds will then say they don't vote, so I don't have to listen to them. That is not the way that it should be, not the way that I am, but some people are like that. But basically, it's important to be invested in your community, and especially at the local level. Of course, the national level, there's so much more attention at the national level, but at the local level, it impacts your life more on a day-to-day. The local level, even though some of these positions are ones that you don't know how it impacts your lives always, they do. For example, on the ballot next week, there are judges. And those judges are for a municipal court, common pleas court, superior court, and Supreme Court for the state. They will decide, like state Supreme Court will hear cases around fair funding for schools across the state. The Commonwealth Court, the municipal and common pleas court will hear criminal cases and civil cases in our city. So we want the most qualified people, the people with the most diverse life experience, and that have empathy for our young people as they go through the court system, and also make good decisions around being a judge. So those are so important. And sometimes it's difficult to know who to vote for on those things. And there are some good resources out there. But it is so important to vote, to be part of your community, to be heard, and to have a voice in our future together.
Yeah, hopefully if they hear from someone else but me, then they'll start to listen.
Yeah, it really is important. It really is.
Okay, well, I mean, that's all the questions that we have listed, I believe.
Okay.
Well, I guess, for my students, if any of you guys have anything that you would like to ask in addition to what's been asked, then some time for that as well. So just, unmute yourself or put your question in the chat if you have one.
I have a question. Do you think the city has been successful in negating the effects of the pandemic as far as businesses and individual citizens that have been facing hardships?
I think that the city has done some things, but and it was a very challenging time, obviously, but there are also things that could have been done better. And just to be clear, because I'm the city controller, I'm the watchdog over the mayor's administration, so not part of the mayor's administration. So, for example, on the whole pandemic, my office is conducting an investigation into the contract with Philly fighting COVID, for example. The group of Drexel grad students that got the vaccine contract, or it wasn't even a contract because it was a handshake deal. That type of thing is completely unacceptable. And we need to make sure that that the city is best reacting and providing service for people in a public health situation such as that. In terms of the business side, my office did a 4-part series on COVID's impact on small business in Philly, which is all at my office's website, which is controller.phila.gov. And that showed how the pandemic has increased the inequity in neighborhoods, and also that there was the money that the city gave out for the pandemic there was a lower concentration of that grant money given out to businesses in disadvantaged neighborhoods, which is not what we would want to see. We would want to see it the other way, because Black and brown neighborhoods in our city were more impacted by the pandemic, so therefore should have gotten more aid, not less. So there are definitely areas that the city should have done better and could do better going forward. And I think a lot of businesses I know had frustrations going through the pandemic around the city's response. But I'll also say it's a pretty tough thing to have to manage through as well.
Any other questions, y'all?
Thank you for that. I actually did have one more question for you. As far as your seat as a city controller, how long do you see yourself in this position? And do you see yourself taking a jump to any other government positions in your career in the future?
So I'm up for re-election right now as city controller. I am unopposed on the ballot next week, which is pretty great for, I think it speaks to my record and the job I've done. But I do love my job and the impact that I'm having on Philly and the people through using the audit function, investigative function to push for change in how our city government works. Look, I love this city. I want to have the biggest impact possible. So we'll see what the future holds and what happens moving forward. I do think that this city could even be more amazing if it had a government that truly led in the way that was bold and had vision. And I want to be part of the solution.
All right, anything else, guys? You got a third question in there somewhere, London?
I don't, thank you.
Can I ask, Your Honor?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Is there a part of your upbringing that led you to your current career or have like your future aspirations be motivated by?
That's a good question. I think I've always wanted to help people and felt that if government could help when families or other entities could not help people in times of crisis or in times of need, that's really what government could do. And that's what motivates me and drives me. I think I've always felt that pretty strongly. And that's really what motivates me every day. So yeah, I'm pretty driven in that regard.
All right, well, thank you very much for your.
One last question.
Yeah, go ahead, Naveyah. I'm sorry.
Okay, so basically, my senior project was based on the mortality rates of women in America. That was one of the topics I chose to use. And the maternal mortality rate for Black women in America is very high compared to the populations, because the population of white women to Black women is crazy, but I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, take your time.
I'm asking, what are your views on the rising maternal mortality rates in Black women in Philadelphia? And do you think there will be any money put into more research and decreasing the rates?
So great question. Health indicators have been shown in Philly and across the country to have really different, I guess there's wide disparity between white and Black women and men And that speaks to the issues that we need to deal with as a city, as a country. I think, and I do speak about this, that I think that we all leaders have a role to play in calling out white privilege and in making sure that we're actively dismantling racist institutions. And that includes dealing with issues and putting strategic investment into areas that create equality of opportunity and outcomes, so that, you know, for example, health, mortality rates, we need to be looking at, okay, African-American women have you know, mortality rates that are much worse than white women. Why is that? And we need to be putting money into areas to counter that. And you know, I think we all honestly have a responsibility because of the history of our country. And, you know, if you look at the history, the racist history, the history of redlining, the racist policies that were sanctioned by our government, well, we all have a role in our history, and therefore we all have a role in fixing it. So I speak about that a lot and believe it, and think that we need to strategically invest to find solutions. So that is something I think with the money coming down from the stimulus plan, we should be looking at where should we be investing so that we help our whole city rise up, and that we deal with the issues facing our city, and specifically our Black and Brown communities.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, guys? All right, well, I appreciate your time.
Great. No, thank you for having me. And, you know, you're the future. So thank you for having me. I'm here in the city. You can always reach my office at controller.phila.gov.
And remember to go out and vote on Tuesday, y'all.
Absolutely. Please vote. Please vote. It's really, really important. You already did. Great. Hope. Yeah, I guess I can say that. I'm the only one on the ballot. For my job, I'm uncontested. So it's easy for you to vote for me, right? Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
All right, Maddy, I don't know how you want to conclude this. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
And thanks everyone else too.
I know that we had a bit of a headache and, you know, a bit of a jam up, but we got through it. So thanks for being flexible.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, guys, you're off tomorrow for